Spire.
From Spire, I'm Jeff Saris,
And I'm Amara Andrew, and this is Ctrl-F.
a show about finding answers.
So, Jeff.
I didn't know how much sound you were going to do there. I'm like, you know what I'm doing?
Yeah, 40 minutes later. So, for those of you watching the video version of our podcast, you may know, hi fans, you may notice something
Hi fans? Did you say hi fans?
Go with it. Yeah, fans. People that enjoy us in a non-sexual manner. People that enjoy our voices, faces. Anyway, those of you who are viewing this, you may notice that we have something a little extra special today.
Oh, we should look at that camera.
Oh yeah. That's what sound I make when I cheers. For those of you who are listening, you should really start watching the podcast, but it's okay.
Hey, we like our listeners too.
No, I know. I love listening to podcasts more than watching. Well, I like you cool. Anyway, for those of you listening, we each have a glass in front of us. It is filled with a yellowish liquid. Oh, this is sounding gross. A golden color liquid with a salt rim and a lime. Can you guess what it is?
Pee-pee.
Yup, that's right. I made pee-pee cocktails. No, we are drinking my fauxgarita mix. So, first off,
Well, yeah, your fauxgarita recipe.
Or yeah, fauxgarita
If it was a
recipe.
mix that we were selling, this would be quite a reveal for me.
Yeah, surprise. William Sonoma loves it. So first off, cheers. So yes. What does this have to do with the episode? Well, I'll tell you.
I like how formal you are in this one.
No, I don't know.
Silly. What does this have to do?
Tune
News
in
at
next
8.
week. Okay, bye. So today we're talking about the history of the margarita. Woohoo! The margarita is without a doubt one of my absolute favorite cocktails. I love the like sour sweet kind of thing going on.
And that's pretty indicative of what a margarita is, right? Sour and sweet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it technically falls under the sour family.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I absolutely love it.
I just picture the face of everyone in the sour family.
How does it look?
You'd be better than I would be. There you go.
Sour.
And what's the phrase that they say?
The sour family.
No, when you normally make that face, what do you say?
Why'd I leave the farm?
That's
Don't
just
ask.
for us.
It was a thing that happened, and
It was nothing. It was someone just had a sour looking face.
well, yeah.
And then you just said,
she did not look happy, but she also looked like she may have come from a rural area.
Well, yeah,
so I just said, "Why'd I leave the farm?"
so that's a little inside joke we always have now.
Yeah, so that's kind of stuck with. Anytime anything happens, it's like, "Why'd I leave the farm? Why did I come here?" Anyway, so the history of the margarita.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is a post that I just worked on, which is coming out or has already come out. I don't know at this time.
Yeah, when this...
Yeah, it has already come out.
Yeah, it'll already be up once this episode comes out.
Yes, and we will put the link in the show notes because I don't remember what the link is right now.
I would assume
I think it's just Margarita.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
AmaraAndrew.com/Margarita.
History of Margarita. I think it's just Margarita.
Okay.
Maybe Fauxgarita.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're
Anyway.
diving into the history of this cocktail, which this isn't your first cocktail history post or research that you've done, right?
No, I think this is my second or third. I think it's my second.
Yeah,
second
you
that
did.
I've published.
Yeah, you did the daiquiri
Yes.
already.
And
which
I
was,
love the daiquiri as well
recently.
because that follows in the same sour category, which is really funny because it's actually very similar to the margarita. But it is obviously different, like different type of liquor and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so when I dove into the daiquiri, and same with like...
Diving into the daiquiri.
Yeah, dive into the daiquiri.
Breaststroke.
It sounds like a thing like, oh, you had a rough day? Yeah, I need to dive into the daiquiri, as they say. But with any sort of recipe, I've learned that it's not very cut and dry as to, oh, where did this come from? And that's sort of how I landed into trying to figure out the history of all these recipes, from like the blondie/brownie, which that's a really fascinating other story. But then I got to the daiquiri, and now here I am at the margarita.
Those bracelets are going to be a little clinky.
Oh, we'll just shove them on the meat sticks and call it a day. I forgot I was wearing them.
What was our first episode? It wasn't Blondies, right? Or was it?
Oh, no, it was
Yeah,
Blondies.
so we already had the episode for
Oh,
Blondies.
yeah, duh.
Yeah.
It's been so long since we've recorded that I forgot. Yeah, so go check out our Blondies episode.
Yeah, the first one.
A case of mistaken identity. Ooh.
We'll have to figure out a fun title for this one, because I was very proud of Pinata Yada Yada.
I know you were. I did like it though.
Oh, I did like it though. Thank you very much.
Yeah, at the time, and then I realized the error in my ways, like I do for most things. No, I did like it. But yeah, so like with most with most old recipes, which I classify as being at least a century old.
Yeah, it's hard to determine the actual source and the root of where the recipe came from originally.
Yeah, because a lot of times it's not well known, or 20 different people are like, no, I'm the inventor, which is exactly what happened with the margarita. So there are probably 36 known origin stories attached to the margarita. Some, like one takes place in Juarez, Chihuahua in 1942. Another's at the Acapulco home of a wealthy Dallas socialite in 1948. And then another one actually involves the singer Peggy Margaret Lee. Well, Margaret is her name is Peggy Lee. She went by Peggy Lee, or goes by Peggy Lee. I think she's still alive. But in my research, I found 3 legends that I actually think may provide a comprehensive look at how the margarita came about. So we're going to dive right into those. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
So, legend number 1.
There's a reveal.
So, I am holding up a reprint of...
That will be a little out of focus when you wander to that camera.
Oh.
Look how close you're getting. Here, how about I hold it for you? Here we go.
I don't know my distance. Longa distanza. Anyway, so legend number 1 has to do with this book. This is The Bartender's Guide by Jerry the Professor Thomas from 1862. This is a reprint. This is not the actual one. I wish I had the actual one, but I'm not made of money. So Jerry...
You're made of margaritas instead.
Yeah, seriously. Margaritas and tacos, I'm like made of those 2 things.
It's like you're from the Southwest or something. It's so weird.
That's what I wrote in my post. I was like, I don't know if it's because I'm from the Southwest or if I just genuinely love the margarita, but it just I don't know. I've been drinking these, virgin ones for ever.
Yeah, and you said today we're doing fauxgaritas, so they're virgin there. It's okay. It doesn't matter.
Mine's actually just tequila with a hint of orange juice.
Nice. Just with food coloring.
Yeah. Who needs oranges?
But yeah, just so we can focus and make sure we're on point for this episode.
Yeah. So, so this book, Bartender's Guide, this is one of the oldest known published recipe books for cocktails, which is really fascinating. So Jerry Thomas was quite the person. I guess I could say character, for he was very interesting. He was born in 1830, and he was born in Sackett's Harbor, New York, which is right on the border of Canada, so pretty far north. And he mainly worked as a bartender in a bunch of different establishments throughout New York, but he actually had a brief experience as a gold mining prospector during the California gold rush in late 1840s, early 1850s, not 1950s. He did by then. So he mostly worked as a bartender throughout his life. And then he had a couple other things that he did, but I just thought the gold prospectoring thing was fun because I was like, holy shit, that's cool. So he came back to New York after a couple other adventures. And he actually settled in New York City, where he opened up a couple different establishments where he was known for his very artistic and flourishing way of mixing drinks. So the one that he was mostly known for, this is just a little side tangent, but it was the Blue Blazer, where he would have, I think it was brandy, and he would mix it up together and then light it on fire and pour it from the shaker into the glass. So it would just be this stream of like blue fire going down. So
Nice.
blue blazer.
Yeah,
So
it sounds very that idealized image of what we have of like a mixologist.
exactly.
Like wearing the suspenders and like all
exactly
hipstery.
He wears like there are lithographs in here where he's wearing suspenders and he has his cute little vest and he has his handlebar mustache. But yeah, so he was like the first, like the father of modern mixology is kind of what he's known as. So so he was not very well, he didn't keep track of his money very well. So he released this book as a way to make a profit, and also kind of, I feel like it was sort of a territorial thing where it's like, no, like I am the man that people come to see. So I'm going to publish this book because then it's like, this is mine. And like, you're making your,
Well, it's smart because then he becomes the resource. It's
exactly.
Like just,
that's what I mean. That's
as
the word,
like as a business, as an entrepreneur, it's him establishing. What are you picking flies out of the air?
There's a fuzzy. I don't want it in my margarita.
But
yeah, so
establishing himself as the source, and then other bartenders and people would turn to him, turn to his book and talk about him, and
and it's
it all helps.
full of just like amazing recipes. But he chose like the most like popular ones at the time, and included in these recipes.
Well, when you say chose, would you say that he created most of them, or some of them were just already iconic?
So I actually cannot prove whether or not he created some of these. A lot of them are just iconic, but unfortunately there aren't a lot of paper sources that are like, oh, this is the recipe for this, because most of the time it was just in your head what you learned from other bartenders. So it wasn't like, oh, let me write this down. What's it called? Okay. Like you learn by doing, which is sort of how it is now. So yeah, I'm not sure if he created any of these other beverages, but of course there's more folklore behind every single beverage has folklore behind it. So it's kind of in recipe just in general. So it's like, okay, I'm not sure who actually made this.
And this is why you're also doing the history of cocktails, history of food type.
Yeah. Like I don't have all the
posts
answers, but it's interesting. So,
but there should be a show about finding answers.
why, I think there is.
But yeah, you don't have the answers yet, but you're trying to, like Sherlock Holmes, you're trying to like uncover the mystery and figure out what the actual story is behind it.
Yeah, and at least get one step closer. So anyway, so in Bartender's Guide, there's a recipe for the daisy. And this is what most people think was the like ancestor to the margarita, because funny enough, daisy translates to margarita in Spanish. So the daisy was developed around the 1800s. And when I say daisy, it's actually a family of drinks. So the main components of the actual drink itself is the same, but the alcohol changes. So you could have a brandy daisy, a whiskey daisy, or later on, as we'll see, a tequila daisy, or a gin daisy as well. So yeah, there are a few creation stories to how the daisy actually came about, but those are in the post, so read those at your leisure. So the original recipe for the daisy included gum syrup, orange cordial, lemon juice, and then the liquor of your choice. So in the 1800s, so this would have been around the 1870s was when the daisy was published, because it was the second edition of this book. It would have been whiskey or gin was the main choice of alcohol, or were the main choices of alcohol. But gin was probably the most preferred liquor.
Do you mean for this drink, or just gin was the most popular at the time?
Gin in general was very popular, but then for this drink especially, gin was very popular. So yeah, you had your sour, your sweet, and then your liquor, kind of like a margarita. Well, by the 1910s, the daisy had evolved into the new school daisy. So you could see more of the parallels to the margarita forming with this version of the daisy, because this version, so instead of the gum syrup, like the original daisy, the new school daisy had superfine sugar in it as the sweetener. It had lemon juice, it had lime juice instead of the orange cordial, and then it had, alcohol and then seltzer water to top it off, just to make it I don't know, effervescent, which is what I added to ours. Well, Topo Chico. Not a sponsor. So again, it's that same sour, sweet, and liquor combo. But like I said, now we have lime instead of orange. So.
And I do have to say, since I'm drinking this, I feel my mouth just salivating the whole time.
Right? I know,
like,
me too. That's why I'm like, excuse me.
I'm like, I think water is my podcasting drink of choice.
Oh,
Only
sorry.
because no. It's really good, and I keep drinking it. But I'm like, gonna be very, very mouthy in the mic.
I'm very spitty right now. So, I know, I'm sorry. That was disgusting. I hate when people do that. So I did it. So after the New School Daisy, this brings us to Prohibition in America. Prohibition was from 1920 to 1933, I believe. And throughout Prohibition, the Daisy remained really popular, but it was at speakeasies and not out at like a regular bar.
And what defines a speakeasy? Like, how do you where do you draw the line between speakeasy and bar?
Well, a speakeasy was a hidden bar. So like during Prohibition, you couldn't have any alcohol whatsoever. So people were very crafty in getting their alcohol. So because of Prohibition and speakeasies, cocktail culture really proliferated during Prohibition, because what you had was bootleg hooch, which was like disgusting. Like it tasted like gasoline pretty much, and it would like burn the shit out of your mouth. So you'd want to mix it so you didn't have to actually taste it, but you could still get your buzz. So that's why cocktail culture really took off, because it was like, I'll take anything to make sure that I don't have to actually taste this alcohol. So yeah, speakeasies are just like underground kind of places that you hear like word of mouth or some people know of. I mean, it's often been speculated that police knew about certain speakeasies, but they would patronize them. It's a whole thing. So yeah, like everybody knew that it was happening, but then it was like which ones would get caught depending on like where your social status was and everything.
And today there's still a lot of speakeasies, like even some really cool ones.
So it was the same kind of vibe.
Yeah, we like to go to the Violet Hour in Chicago.
Or 3 Dots and a Dash, which I love. But now it's so crowded. It's like not fun anymore because of how crowded it is. But when we used to go, it was like totally empty. And it's a tiki speakeasy, which is really cool.
Back in my day.
Or there was the Japanese one that we went to.
I don't remember what the name is though.
It's under Sushi Doku, I think. Yeah, I don't remember, but it was really cool. And they have Japanese whiskey, and yeah, it was really neat.
But yeah, and all the secret entrances where you have to know what's there, like the Violet Hour, it's a nondescript wall that has a knob on it.
And you just see a line out in front of it, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, I actually had a friend that used to work there, and we should have visited him when he worked there to get free drinks. Well, and to visit him, but free drinks. Anyway, so speakeasy. So Daisy was super popular, and during Prohibition, actually, a lot of people went over the border to Mexico because you could still drink there. So then that's when tequila became more popular. Like it was known about, especially in the Southwest and in like Southern California, but it wasn't super popular as an alcohol. But then,
or at least in the U.S.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry. In American cocktail cultures, yes. So then people began smuggling bottles back over the border if they could, and then bootleggers, obviously. So then cocktail became a main component in cocktails now, or tequila became a main...
What's drink over there?
Whoopsies. Tequila became a main component. Yes. So the Daisy that we all know and love, once Prohibition was lifted, the tequila Daisy made its official debut, because it was made obviously behind the scenes.
So they were making the tequila Daisy during Prohibition, but it wasn't until Prohibition was lifted that it's like, hey, this is it's sort of more widely known. But it's sort of it was around for a lot longer then.
Yes, because you couldn't print a cocktail book during Prohibition, because then it's like, what are you doing? That's a little suspicious. I mean, I guess you could. I think there actually were a couple, but maybe those are printed in the UK now that I think about it. But yeah, so the Tequila Daisy debuted, and it was the exact same thing. So lime juice, lemon juice, the superfine sugar for the sweetener, tequila, and then seltzer water. So now we go on to legend number 2.
So yeah, I mean, it sounds like the Daisy. The Daisy sounds accurate. Like that would be the origin of the margarita. And the only thing we really do differently now is instead of the sugar, we use like simple syrup, which is sugar dissolved in water.
Right. Well, and then we use Cointreau, or a lot of places use Cointreau or Curacao as like the orange liqueur to give it that citrusy kind of vibe.
Yeah. So instead of the citrus that you might use in yours, or
so like I use orange juice as a replacement just because I didn't want to have another bottle of whatever.
Yeah.
So
but yeah, fresh squeezed.
Yeah,
orange juice.
literally fresh squeezed with these guns. But yeah, so the daisy definitely does. Sorry, I jumped the gun.
That's a lot
the
of
daisy definitely does. Dallas, no.
And there's no alcohol in these.
Yeah, and yours.
Mm-hmm.
No, just easy. But yeah, so the daisy definitely does seem like it was the beginning of the margarita, at least like maybe a subconscious thing for future innovation down the line. But I mean, when you have lemon, lime, sugar, and then tequila, like you have a margarita essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. So then that brings me to legend number 2.
And now these are well-known legends? Or
yes. Okay. So sort of if you are into cocktail history, then yes.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise not really. This next one isn't as well known. It's sort of more of a hypothetical, but you'll hear why I think it is. So another cocktail recipe book that was published was the Café Royale cocktail book, the Coronation Edition. In 1937 is when it was published, and it was published by William J. Tarling, who I forget his job title right now, but he was essentially in charge of the UK Guild of Bartenders. So in the introduction to this book, he makes a note specifically saying that he picked the recipes in this book to be in there, like handpicked them because they were the most popular at the time as well, just like good old Jerry the Professor Thomas. So he notes also that the professor had visited England in 1895. Now, if the daisy was as popular as it's been like professed to be, then surely when the professor was in England, when he was teaching bartenders, he would have taught them that drink because it was kind of like a staple, I believe. So the daisy would have been sort of well known. And then especially through Prohibition and everything, granted that was in America, but I don't know. People are traveling, things change.
Do you know what context he mentioned Jerry Thomas? Was it because he didn't actually talk about the daisy? Is that what you mean? Correct.
So he just said that Jerry Thomas visited England in 1895, and he was the author of the Café Royal book was more interested in the silver utensil set that Jerry Thomas brought with him, which I think he said was 1,000 pounds worth of sterling silver or something like that. So yeah, he didn't outright mention the daisy, but he did mention that, which I thought was interesting because it was like, oh, like everybody's familiar with this book. So they would be familiar with the daisy, and then it's popular, and then that's how things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Café Royal book, there's a recipe for the picador. The picador is almost exactly like the daisy, but with lime juice instead. So it's actually just like the new school daisy in a way. I know this is a lot of like recipes to keep track of.
Yeah, we're sort of rewinding now too, because these are two different storylines, but seemingly they've converged and split off at some point.
So the picador actually, I think, is the closest to the traditional margarita that we have today because it was tequila, Cointreau, and then lemon or lime juice. And that was it. And then you just mixed it and served it, and that was what you had, which that's like almost exactly what margaritas are now, but just you add like sweetener to it. So, so...
You said the picador?
Yeah. So the picador, the book that was published, the Café Royal, was really popular when it was produced as well. So I feel like most bartenders who were practicing their craft and stuff like that would have at least been familiar with the book or would have come into contact with it, or bartenders who had read from it would have taught other bartenders. You know, it's just like, it's a linear effect. So that was 1937. That brings me to my third and final legend, number 3, which involves I'm so excited. It involves Carlos Danny Herrera, or Danny is his nickname, and Marjorie King. And this was in 1938, so the year following the publication of the Café Royal book.
So this is pretty linear. The 3 different stories are pretty linear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Woo.
Cutting you off. These are virgin, though. Or they're mocktails. But yeah, so that's what mostly drew me to these 3 legends, was that they all sort of lined up, because almost every other story comes like post 1938. So it's after 1940, I think, is when things start occurring. Like the 3 that I mentioned earlier, those were like 1948, 1950, and 1946 or something like that.
And when you say, so those 3 are 3 very common ones?
Those 3 are the most common that I pointed out earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I dive deeply into the most common, and then the 3 that I mentioned before are like the next tier common. But then there are like a ton more people who are like, no, I did it. And it's like, okay, whatever. So Carlos Danny Herrera, we'll call him Danny from now on, lived with his wife Lucia about 20 kilometers from Tijuana in Rosarito in Mexico. The couple originally lived in a really small dirt floor house, so not the best living circumstances. But then Danny realized that he could make a living by providing a place for people like tourists, because it was a big tourist area, because they lived right on the beach. So he realized that there was an opportunity for him to cater to travelers and tourists who wanted like a meal, a drink, or a room to stay in. So he actually built a ranch-style house that had a pool, a dining area, and a bar. And throughout the years, many celebrities stayed at this place, including Walt Disney, which is really cool. That was just the one name that stuck out to me, because I was like, wow, that's cool. Because he just like, at that time, he was at a whole other level of fame. So just, I don't know, having him be there, it's like, that's cool. So, and of course, Marjorie King stayed there. So Marjorie King was a Ziegfeld Follies dancer, and she was also a movie actress in the 20s.
Have we talked about the Ziegfeld Follies on this for something else? On this podcast?
No, that was in a video for the fauxgarita.
Oh, that's why. There's also a video.
Yeah.
FYI.
We're doing great video. With this.
Well, no, because we're doing everything really out of order. Just completely.
Now we'll get more back in order. But before it was like, oh, we can do these things. And yeah, the other one was more so just a recipe video of how to do the thing without too much history.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll post a separate one about the history. So stay tuned. So Marjorie King, she was a dancer and then also an actress. And while she was on a trip to Ensenada, because she was a dancer, so she would perform in a bunch of different places, she would always stay at Herrera's hotel, Danny's hotel. And one day, allegedly, she wanted a drink at the bar, but she was supposedly allergic to all other spirits except for tequila. So she asked Danny to make her a drink with tequila as the main liquor. And so he, of course, created a drink composed of tequila, Cointreau, and lemon. And then he added a salt rim and, so a salt rim to the glass. And then he gave it to her and said, "This is the Margarita," which is the Spanish, like the closest Spanish equivalent to Marjorie. That's that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, closest equivalent to her name, but then also translates straight to Daisy.
Exactly.
Which
goes back to the original Daisy, which was gum syrup, lemon, Cointreau, or orange cordial, and then just seltzer water on top. So yeah, it's like the exact same drink, just minus lime juice, which is what we integrate into the drink now. So yeah, it just isn't that interesting?
I mean, so it seems like it feels like it came like the source was at least Jerry Thomas in terms of like an ancestor, a recipe that was an ancestor of it.
Right. Yeah, I genuinely think that is the beginning of the margarita, so to speak, just because, yeah, like margarita translates into daisy. Like how much more obvious can it get? And then like with the picador, I feel like that was an earlier ancestor to the margarita in a way, like a sibling of sorts where that was delineated from the daisy, and then like you have the new school daisy in there, which has the lime. So maybe that's where the lime comes from in the modern day ones. And yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because there's so many different drinks out there. Like in that 1937 book, there were so many tequila cocktails that were just tequila, lemon, lime, and then like grenadine or some sort of sweetener. So they all kind of followed that same format. So it is difficult to be like, oh no, this was like part of this. Cause it's like, well, no, like it could be anything. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought that these three were really interesting and you could see the progression really nicely. So yeah.
Yeah. So that is the history of the margarita. And yes. Like it seems like it feels accurate. It feels like truth. Obviously it's accurate what you're saying, but like that is where it came from.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we'll see. But yeah, it's unfortunate because there's kind of no way to prove anything. So it's just pure speculation at this point. But on that note, the margarita.
But yeah, and then you made a fauxgarita, which is just, it's a mocktail. It's a margarita without the alcohol.
Yeah, but we didn't want to get too lit.
But then you change it up. How do you change so this is your margarita recipe. How do you change that into a fauxgarita?
So fauxgarita, I add the citrus. So I freshly squeeze orange juices, oranges. Sorry. I don't know why I'm stumbling over my words. Freshly squeezed orange juice, freshly squeezed lime, freshly squeezed lemon, and then a little bit of simple syrup to kind of bring more sweetness into the sour mixture. And then a bit of Topo Chico on top.
So is Topo Chico what you do instead of tequila?
Yes.
Okay. So it's, I mean, the recipe works either way. One of them gets a little bit of a bubbly kick to it.
Yeah, unwittingly, I'm making a daisy almost, or a picador with seltzer water. It's it's really bizarre because also, too, there are only so many combinations of things that you can make. Like, it is seemingly endless, but...
But, like, this is a simple drink.
Oh, yeah.
Generally. Like, sort of broadly speaking. Some can get pretty fancy.
No, I made this specifically so it would only take, like, 2 minutes because, I don't know, I don't have a lot of patience and I don't have a lot of time, and they go hand in hand. So, yeah, anything I do, I try to do the simplest way, but also the best way. So then I can get to where I need to go, but in the, like, most... efficient manner possible.
Yeah.
So
that's this week's episode of Ctrl-F.
We're getting into my psyche now.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you all for listening. And
I hope you enjoyed this episode. And
go look, I made illustrations for this. On the blog post.
Yeah, in the show notes we'll have again the link to the full post and a link to your recipe video and all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah.
Like now that you're on TikTok and like we talked about last time and you're doing the 60-second art history, you're also going to start injecting some other things in there, right?
Yeah.
Maybe things like this and recipes. And
yeah, I would love to. I'm going to get on that.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it's just one more piece. But yeah, if you're on TikTok, be sure to follow at Amara Andrew on TikTok.
Come follow me. Come hang out. Let's party.
And then this episode, as always, is brought to you by Built. And Built is our platform for getting online and building a business. And you can just head on over to built.co. That's bylt.co to get started. And it's your website built for you simply. What is this look on your face you're giving me?
I don't know why, but when you said BYLT, I thought of BLT. I was like, ooh, that sounds really good right now.
Yeah, bacon and lettuce on toast, right?
Yeah.
That's what BLT stands for?
Yep.
I don't like tomatoes.
Yeah, I don't either. On a BLT, it's pretty good.
I was going to say, do you eat them so you would have a full tomato on there? a full uncut tomato. Just a round tomato, bacon,
Can
and
I
then
have the stem, please? Sometimes it depends. I definitely like avocado on there better. So maybe I like a blah.
Blah.
Bacon, lettuce, and avocado.
Yeah, that sounds
avocado.
good.
Blah. Sound Midwestern. Avocado.
But yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can watch on YouTube so you can see see the shenanigans of this one over here. And but yeah, this is, you're going to drink right before the outro?
Yeah.
Well, here, while you're drinking, I have to give you our really fantastic.
I swear these are virgin. We're just having a lot of trouble speaking today.
But yeah, it's our fantastic joke of the week, of course.
Oh, no. I mean, yay!
You sound so excited.
What is it? I'm curious.
What do you call a factory that only makes good products?
What do you call a factory that only makes good products?
Yeah, only the good ones.
Good factory? Good tree?
A factory that only makes good products is, of course, a satisfactory.
Damn, that was really good.
I thought you were going to get that one. You were right there with good factory. Just a little different.
A little too on the nose. Welcome to Good Factory, home of the Good Factory. Can I take your order?
All right.
Anyway.
Well, that's another episode of Ctrl-F. And
yeah, we'll talk at you soon.
Yeah, as always.
Go Ctrl-F yourself. I was like, what is it?
Well, yeah. I know that that's a good tag, but I don't know. It's just silly.
Well, yeah, go find something. Ooh, whatever you find, actually comment it, because I'm super curious about, like, I don't know, what you're interested in. Or
well, yeah, if you have any questions, if there's something that has always been just at the back of your mind, like, what is this? Why did this happen? What is blah, 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 blah.
Besides, like, an existential crisis, because I probably can't help with that.
Any historical?
Yeah.
Historical.
Yeah. Ooh, historical. I like that. If I was a stripper, that would be my name.
Historical.
I would just sit there and read historical nonfiction to people at the Battle of Waterloo.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
All right, well, that's all for this
week.
Bye,
everyone.
See you next time.
Peace.
And I like that every episode ends with you giggling.
Because I'm just being a ding dong. Mm-hmm. Why did I say stripper?